Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world one character at a time. But I'm also teaching Zettelkasten. And today is an interesting topic, which is a little bit of a review and an amalgamation. This video was created for you, Kip, but the fun thing is that as I was just finishing up the cards to teach this video, I got an email from Kip and he sent me copies of the cards he'd created, doing exactly the thing that I'm about to tell him he ought to do. Well, because it's all ready to go and because others might be in the same situation, I'm going to go forward with this video anyway. It's about how to use Adler's methods for rapid learning. It's rather interesting. Adler's approach teaches you how to get the juice out of a book and then prepares you for reading that book critically and then reading multiple books so that you can produce your output and put it out into the world. Well, for many of us, we're not so much interested in criticizing the book that we're reading as absorbing what we need to know from it, and not so much for putting information out into the world, but to learn to establish a base. So the goals are slightly different than what Adler teaches, but his methods also work. And his methods are especially valuable when the amount of content that we have to get through is very large, and so we want to be as efficient as possible. There is a tendency to say, well, if I've got to get through this stuff fast, I don't want to bother with a bib card and then main cards. That's 2 steps. I'm just going to go straight for the main cards. Big mistake. That's going to slow you down, because I was able to go through the book that Kip brought to my attention and get a fair amount of the juice out of it in an hour's time and set myself up to get even more out of it in the space of yet 1 more hour. And I wanted to go over this with you because it also makes a key step that there's a big difference between knowing what a bib card should look like and knowing how it should come together. So I've got it all set up with the down-facing camera. Let's go over there and I'll show you what I mean. See you there. Now, I made a couple of main cards to start with because not only am I going through this for Kip, but I'm also preparing my newsletter for October. And I always have a section in my newsletter, about 10 pages, devoted to the Zettelkasten, the basics. And so coincidentally, this month's issue, I'm diving into the bib card. And I wanted to make this point that knowing what a bib card looks like and knowing how to build one are 2 different things. And so that's what my newsletter is going to go through, is how do you actually go through the steps of building that? And I'm covering a little bit of that right here in the context of helping Kip. So one of the things that I want to emphasize with this is that a bib card can become helpful before you even acquire the book. It can help you decide what book to buy. It can help you decide which books to read, because if you're like me, you have a lot more books in your library than ones that you've actually read. Bad habit of mine. And it will even help you decide the order in which to read your books. So starting with a bib card is a very, very valuable thing to do. Then for Kip in particular, and for those of you who are interested in quickly learning from a book, I propose that Adler's methods for how to read a book can be adapted for efficient acquisition of the body of material from that book. And methods that he designed for reading critically for output can be modified a little bit for rapid reading for input. So we're going to be using my mobile bib card. This is actually my bib card set for how to read a book, translated into a little portable fashion because I'm using it all the time and I'm always diving in for my bib cards. So I just put them on this nice little ring so I can get to them quickly. So Adler suggests that we begin by pre-reading a book. So for me, pre-reading the book begins when I actually purchase the book. I like to put this card actually cut out a picture of the cover of the book and tape it to my bib card. in part that because it helps me identify very quickly when I'm looking it up. If I want to go look for the book on the shelf, I can see, that's what it looks like. Helps me spot it. And also that sight of that book helps bring the whole thing back to me. That visualization helps put my brain in gear to remember what I've gotten out of this book. Other than that, it's a standard bib card where I've named it according to the author and the title, and I've included author and title and publication date and press, just in case I need to reference it somewhere. And a really important thing, always, 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 is to include the purpose. And sometimes I have more than one set of bib cards on a book because I might have originally come at the book with a certain very limited purpose, and I might be coming back to the same book for a different purpose, either very limited also or for a more expanded purpose. So the purpose can help me know what this set of bib cards is aiming to do. And in my case, I'm helping Kip get going with his Zettelkasten, although he seems to have gotten going quite nicely without this particular video. And I'm also want to practice the rapid learning technique. So now I'm going to merge what Adler says to do with what I'm putting on my bib card. So my first thing that I need to do is look for the scope or aim of the book and the subject of the book, and the places that he's recommending that are like the title page, preferences, preface, introduction, things like that. So this means I'm ready to flip over my bib card and get to work. Again, right here, so that I know where I'm going, I want the scope, the aim, the subject. That's what I'm looking for. So I started with the foreword by John Allen Jr. I skimmed through it, and I picked up some key things, that this is from the trenches wisdom. This is going to be a very practical book, and that the characteristics are hustle, lay empowerment, balanced approach, joy of participants, and curiosity, the life of the mind. So that was a pretty attractive introduction. It's not really too much telling me about the scope, a little bit because it's about practicality, and the aim because it's trying to achieve these goals. Also read the introduction and discovered from that Dave Henney's approach is for humble leadership, and beginning with the sense that you're arriving with a handicap. I did not see too much in the way of scope, aim, or subject in that introduction. It seemed he dove right into the method. So for that was as far as I was able to get on this particular page. I did, however, jump ahead to what Adler calls step 4, reading the publisher's blurb. And the reason I went for that out of turn, so to speak, is because I had not yet gleaned the scope, aim, and subject of the book. So this is what I learned from the advertising blurb for the book, that it's 4-step program, Bible-based, and it's a plan for effective parish ministry. Its aim is to build trusting partnerships, etc. I've got all of the points down. I now know its aim, its scope, and what source that it's going to draw on. And it's drawing on particularly 4 main verses from Luke's chapter 10. I'm now ready to proceed with Adler's second step, which is to study the table of contents to get a sense of the book structure. This bib card is already full. I'm moving on to bib card 2. With bib card 2, the table of contents structure of the book, it's very clearly laid out. There's an introduction, a conclusion, and in between there are 4 chapters based on the 4 verses of Luke's 10 gospel that the book is based on. There is no index, so I can't do step 3 to check out the index for the range of topics covered and key terms. I've already done the publisher's blurb, so now I'm already at the spot where I have to answer the question, do you want to read this book? Do I want to read this book? Yes. So now it's time for me to do the superficial reading. This is where you're going to do a pre-reading that should take from a few minutes to at most 1 hour. I did that, and I was able to notice when I did it that the chapters have key ideas section at the beginning and key takeaways at the end. This makes it very easy to pick up on what the author considers the most important ideas. He has big bold headers that keep you on track with the main points he's trying to make, and smaller headers that give you the subpoints. This feeds directly into Adler's point where you have to determine the author's propositions and the arguments that he uses in support of it. Very, very clearly laid out in this book. And each chapter is divided into two main parts: what Christ and the early Christians faced when they tried to begin with parish ministry, and then what are the parallels for today and what do we need to do in parish ministry today. So it's very, very rich in information, and I was able to already determine at this point in time that there are a lot of pieces of information that could be gleaned. But I think that for any individual purpose that someone is reading this book, it would probably be quite possible to limit oneself to 3 main cards per chapter. That would be 12 main cards in total. It's unlikely that you would be able to absorb and put into practice any more than the 12. Many of the prescriptions are going to be common sense, and they're not going to be an issue for you, but some might stand out, and those would probably be the ones that you want to grab. That means that any individual reader might make a different set of main cards. Interestingly, though, as I was reading, one paragraph just jumped out at me and made me make a main card on the spot, so I might as well share it with you. And that is this one: Father Dave's Law. Anything you find out about yourself is good news. That's his law in his words. And then I paraphrased what followed by saying, if you stumble on something you were unaware of, you can start to change that now. And this can truly help you. Well, my response to that is that, this is going to require setting aside defensiveness. When I learn something about myself that I don't particularly like, my first thought is to circle the wagons and protect myself. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the right approach going forward. Okay, so here's my summary. Embrace news about yourself. Be vulnerable to receive hidden knowledge. Okay, so I hope that helps in seeing how do you go about getting your bib card started and begin to collect the information that will help you glean what the book is going to give to you and help you narrow down your scope so that when it's time to actually dive into the material and do your more analytical reading, you'll know what you're going for, why you're going for it, and what the whole point of the exercise is. This should enable you to make the most effective main cards and the fewest number of them. Remember always that if you have a main card that's a subject and you need the picky details, they're important, you want to remember them, put a star on the main card, flip it over, and put the picky details on the back. Don't make separate main card for each picky detail. Main cards are too expensive. You want to limit them to ideas. And besides that, picky details don't tend to interact. Ideas interact. And that's what you want for your Zettelkasten, the power of ideas that interact and that can feed your thought processes. So I hope this helped you go from knowing why you want to make a bib card and how to get one started. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.